Hi! I am having a really relaxing afternoon in the studio. It's nap time and it's just very quiet over here. And if the house is clean and I feel like all things are done and I can just relax, I really like to take that time to do some knitting or dyeing. And today I decided to take some time to knit. So last time I was speaking with you guys, I was working on my, these are Arne and Carlos from Regia, their Perfect line, which I'm slowly becoming obsessed with. You'll see my next pair of socks that I'm knitting are from Regia's Perfect line. So here's the first pair that I knit. I really love this colorway. I just feel like it's so much fun. And I did a Kitchener toe for these, which I haven't done for quite a while. But I think it's something that I'm going to do for my upcoming socks. I haven't worn them. I've never worn a pair of socks that have a Kitchener toe. I usually just bring my yarn through the last 8 stitches. However, here I Kitchenered 16 stitches, so 8 in the front and 8 in the back. And I used a special technique where you don't get those little ears on the sides, and I'm really happy with the way that it looks. So I used a Fish Lips Kiss heel for these, and I never wear out my heel. The only place I ever wear out is right here at the foot of the toe. I think that's honestly the only place that I've ever really worn out socks, and I recently just threw away a pair of socks that I wore out the toe. I feel like I have so much sock yarn, and especially if it's a pair of socks that I have been wearing for quite a while, a couple of years, I don't really have a problem throwing them away. Like I said, I'm knitting so many socks that I don't necessarily want to spend the time ripping it out and fixing it when that yarn is, you know, maybe starting to grow thin anyway throughout the bottom of the foot. So I feel like I always have. I have a box of just freshly finished socks for gifts for myself that I can just pull out of if I feel like I'm low on socks. And this is one that has been in there for quite some time. I finished these a little while ago. The next pair of socks that I'm currently working on, this is definitely one of my favorite bags. If you know me, if you've watched this podcast, I feel like pine trees are kind of my favorite thing, and that's only because of my grandma Sue. They completely remind me of her, and because of her, I have fallen in love with pine trees. I could just talk about how beautiful they are, how much I love them for a while. I feel like if there are pine trees on something, I love it. I think of my grandma Sue the second I see something with a pine tree on it, so they're really special to me. So this is by Alden Woodcraft. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. And this is a really beautiful little cupcake progress keeper that a friend made for me. I really love that one. So I'm currently knitting on yet another pair of Regia Perfect socks. You can see I'm quite well into the second sock. This is the color number 07111 because I know you will ask. And this is, again, their Perfect line. I'm not sure who the designer of this line is, but it's definitely some sort of a line in their Perfect line because they always have separate lines. I'm not sure what this one is, so I'm sorry about that. Anyway, I have finished the first one. Let me grab that one to show you. Here it is. I'm really happy. Maybe I should kind of fold it how I have the other one. I'm really happy with the way that this turned out. I, again, did the toe the same way. And I used a Fish Lips Kiss heel. And I love the colors on this. I honestly fell in love with this line, which I have one more skein of while I was watching Skein podcast. She's a yarn dyer in Australia. I'm sure many of you have heard of her. And she was knitting with this colorway. And so I had to purchase this colorway. So I will definitely be knitting these ones. I'm really, really excited about it. They look absolutely stunning. Once I start knitting them, you guys are going to wonder why you haven't bought them yet. Because when I saw hers, I was like, okay, I'm sold. I need to buy this. And I feel like the Regia yarns sell out pretty quickly. And once they're sold out, they can be pretty difficult to find. So that's why I immediately purchased these two ones. So while I'm showing you the ones that I have, I also have this colorway, which is also an Arne and Carlos, along the same lines as this, but a little bit different. So I'm looking forward to knitting these. I'm thinking I'll knit these for Robert. I could see him liking those, but I really, really like them as well. So we'll see what I do with those. So that's the first one that I'm knitting, and I am currently knitting the second one. Both of these socks, I knit the leg in a day, just because, well, for me, who I feel like I'm quite busy, that's a lot. But when there's a striped sock, and I don't normally knit striped socks, but when I do, I feel like they knit up quickly because I knit on them more than I knit on, just a standard hand-dyed or any other sock yarn that isn't a striping, just because they're so much more addictive. I would just pull out the yarn until I could see the rest of the color and just make myself knit until I got to that color. And sometimes I would be like, okay, maybe just the next one. And sometimes I just fell down a huge hole of knitting the next color and the next color. And that's definitely what happened with this one. I did not plan on spending that much time knitting, or this one rather, the one I'm currently knitting on. So I have this in my ever so lovely DPN cozy made by Danny of the Little Bobbins podcast and shop. And I also have here one of our Sucre Miniatures charms. This is a Harry Potter one, and this was for a colorway called Weasley is Our King. I really, really love these. They're so much fun to knit up. I can definitely see that there will be some more Regia Perfect socks in my future, as I have 2 more balls of it. So I'm really enjoying that. It would be amazing if I could finish these tonight. Or make good way, at least get down to the toe. Robert and I are watching Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince this evening, and I think I might knit on those. I don't know. I generally don't knit at all when Robert and I are watching movies. I don't know. I know a lot of people really enjoy watching movies and knitting, and I do too. But if Robert is in the room, I just get too distracted. Like, we're cuddling and talking during the movie, and I just feel like for me it doesn't work to knit. And I think about that sometimes, like, oh, this would be such great knitting time, but I don't know, I don't know, it just doesn't work for me. So in this bag, this is one of my favorite things ever. I'm sure I've shared this with you, but one of my best friends, Danny, sweetly made this for me. So I love it. It's absolutely beautiful, and I keep all my needles. The littler ones are still in there, but they've fallen down. So I love those. So that's the current sock project that I'm working on. And I don't know why. Was it last podcast or the podcast before where I mentioned where I kind of wanted to have 2 socks on the needles at one time and knit one sock and then start the next sock from a different yarn, so that I was, kind of working on two projects at the same time, two sock projects at the same time, and not getting bored with either one. But I don't necessarily feel like I'm getting bored with the second one, and maybe that's because I am doing the Arne and Carlos, or not Arne and Carlos, the Regia design line with, where it's like the stripes are constantly changing. Now the current pair that I'm knitting, the foot does get a little bit long and boring, but the leg, even though it's the same leg that I knit the last time, couldn't be more of a joy. And as I said, I knit both of those legs in one day, one leg in one day and then one leg in the next, so not concurrently in the same day. But maybe that will change once I start knitting with hand-dyed yarns for socks. Maybe then I'll have two on at the same time. But I think while I'm knitting socks where so much is going on and there's always constant change, I don't think I need to have two separate socks going at the same time. It doesn't seem like it's something that's stopping me. I don't have any other socks on the needles right now. It's just the current pair. And I don't really have much on the needles, to be honest, right now, other than my Cozy Memories blanket and my granny stripe blanket, which I've been working on, which is crochet. Those are kind of always on the needles and hook, that's a long-term project. But other than that, I have a new shawl cast on that I'm knitting on. I have my Marley shawl, which I've been knitting on for quite a while. And then I have my Siri pullover that I've been knitting, and that's it. So I really have 4 projects on the needles, which is crazy. I kind of feel like I want to cast on so many different things. There's a knitwear designer. She knits a lot of brioche. Her name is, I believe, I'm so unsure, I think it's Lavanya. Her last name starts with a P. But she just came out with this. Chelsea from the Legacy Knits podcast is knitting it. It's like a cowl and then it forms into bandana style in brioche. And I feel like she has that in fingering, possibly DK, and bulky or chunky. And I really would like to knit one for Robert. So I do have this yarn, which I'm thinking I will use. This is a Homespun House yarn. I think I'll use this and then maybe an evergreen, or this is DK, by the way. An evergreen or a deep brown to use for the brioche. And I'm thinking about doing that for Robert because he said that he's been telling me he would really, really like an easy shawl to put on, or just cowl or something easy to just slip on where he doesn't have to worry about styling it. So that's something that I want to cast on. I would love to cast on another pullover fingering weight one. Danny from the Little Bobbins podcast, I think this is the 3rd time I've mentioned her in this clip. She just finished her So Faded pullover, and it turned out so fantastic. The girl who does Wool Jewel podcast, oh my goodness. She finished her So Faded pullover. It is amazing. If you haven't seen her Instagram, she posts a photograph of her wearing it. Her colors could not have been more spot on. Like, as soon as I saw her So Faded pullover, I was like, I need to cast one on. I need to cast one on now. But I think I haven't decided if I'm going to use yarn from Stash, if I'm going to knit it. I feel like that's kind of not likely at this moment, but I'm starting to dream about it. Or if I will use dye-up yarn specifically, which I feel like would probably be more of a sweater that I would wear. But I would love to use some of my Stash yarn. Although I feel like a lot of my Harry Potter yarn clubs really mesh well together. So I think that I could probably pair, is it 5 or 6 yarns together from those, and they're kind of a palette that I would use. They're plums and mauves and grays, quite evergreens, just a navies. But anyway, what else have I been dreaming about knitting? I have been dreaming about linen. I have been wanting to dye linen, but I'm having a really hard time sourcing here in Germany linen yarns. If you find linen, there is merino in it or camel in it. And I don't want something that's going to be warm at all. To mention another podcast, Espace Trico, they have been showing just all of these amazing linen knits, and I am just falling in love. Like, I favorited quite a few of the linen garments, maybe 3 or 4 that they showed on maybe 3 podcasts ago, and I want to make them so bad. So I would love to dye the yarn myself, just because I feel like that makes it so much more special than buying a yarn from a non-indie dyer. But I'm kind of thinking I'm going to have to look around for some linen yarn. And maybe if that means supporting a local yarn shop, that might be cool too. So maybe we'll see what happens. I feel like summer is kind of nearing and ending. I know it's just beginning, literally. I mean, it's the beginning, middle of June. But here, summer is kind of over by September, mid-September. And while summer is here and those days are really hot, like we just had a 32, 35 degree day. That was so disgusting. Now, I'm generally ice cold. Like, it was 27 today and I have skinny jeans on. I had sandals on, a sweatshirt, and I literally just had this on. And like, we live in Germany, and Amy was talking about this in the Stranded podcast, but like, we don't do air conditioning here. So if it is hot outside, it's hot inside. And when you wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is open all of the windows, try as much as possible to cool the flat down, and as soon as the sun comes out, those windows are closed. And if you go out on the balcony, if you go outside, you are like in and out quick, or closing the door behind you, because that heat is brutal. And once you have like 2-3 days of heat, the house doesn't get cool anymore. Like, it's pretty much impossible to cool down the flat. So I'm not looking forward to those really hot days. I'm really thankful to not be dyeing every single day in the summer, to be honest. I think next summer I probably will be dyeing every day. And I will get an air conditioner for the studio, because there is no way in, the day that it was 35 degrees, which is about 100 degrees Fahrenheit over, our flat was like 80, 86, 9, yeah, I think it was 86, 88 degrees. So it was really hot for sleeping. But yeah, so we have a long weekend this weekend here in Germany, which is nice. But it's been raining, so we haven't really been able to get out a lot. But still, we had a really fun day inside playing with Lego and making yummy food. We went grocery shopping and got some tasty goods at the bakery, and playing with some fun Playmobil. I love Playmobil. Like, something about just the Playmobil pieces are so fun. Like, I love changing the hair, and I just really enjoy playing with Playmobil. I don't know if that's weird. Probably not weird. I love using my imagination, and it's really fun to do that with Elodie and Ruby, because their imagination is so big. So that's really, really fun. And tomorrow, I think we'll go for a walk. It says that it's supposed to rain all day, but I hope we have a little spot of clearness in the morning, of sun in the morning, just a nice atmosphere to go for a nice walk together. Because we generally have been starting the days with just walking around without a particular location to be, just going for a walk around the neighborhood and just enjoying being together and moving around a little bit and being outside. So I hope we're able to do that tomorrow morning. I'm sitting at the table right now, and I am currently working on my Serie pullover. I really, really wish that I had shared this with you before I ripped it out, because I had knit quite a bit on the sleeve, and you guys might hear a little bit of television in the background, and that's because Elodie has her friend Emma over, and they're both watching It Takes Two with Lindsay Lohan. Elodie's seen it before, but Emma hasn't seen it before, and so they're enjoying watching that. So that's what you're hearing in the background. Emma's here for a sleepover, and we just painted our nails. So anyway, I have been knitting on my Serie pullover wonderfully, swimmingly, amazingly, and I had been taking it everywhere and had almost finished this first arm. So I'm sure I've knit more than I have since we last spoke. I'm not exactly sure, but I had already joined a new color of yarn, or not a new color, a new skein of yarn to the mix. It's right here. I'd already skeined it up and joined it, and I'm a little distracted. And after almost completing the arm, I realized that I have not been doing the decreases as I'm supposed to be doing them on the arms. And so I set it aside for quite a while, to be honest, because I was just so bummed that I knit so much on it and just knit. I didn't do the decreases. So I finally just now sat down with my coffee. This is my teacup that I received from Amber of Maker's Haven in our past swap. This is another Progress Keeper that I've shared with you last time as well from her. And I love everything from Amber. She's so careful in everything she does. And yeah, I love the Progress Keeper, the mug, and anything else that I have from her. But anyway, so I ripped back to where I stopped doing the decreases, and that was a bit into this old skein of yarn. Now this is all that I have left. Warum hast du das denn ausgezogen? Warum hast du das denn ausgezogen? Es ist voll? Ruby took off her clothes. Anyway, what was I saying? So yes, I am now almost finished with this first skein of yarn. Not first skein of yarn, but with this previous skein of yarn, ready to add the new one in. And I'm happy that I realized it before I completely finished the arm. That would have been a true bummer. That would have been a really, really big bummer. I don't know if you can see this wall behind me, but this is a huge gallery wall of 16 large A4 sized frames that have artwork from the girls in there that we kind of change up every once in a while. Not really often, but ever so often. So I am knitting on my Serie pullover. I want so badly to cast on 1,000 different pullovers. I think there's this new tee called the Tagna or Tanga tee that has some really beautiful lace at the bottom. Danny from Little Bobbins brought this to my attention. And I just got in some silk merino yarn, and I feel like that would be so perfect. It's a 50-50. I feel like that would be a really, really perfect yarn to knit it with. However, I would much prefer it if the yarn was a non-superwash merino, but I think it's a superwash merino. I'll have to take a look at that. So anyway, the problem is, and I don't know why I didn't think about this earlier when I was dyeing up my yarn, or when I was adding my yarn to it, is that this skein of yarn, while it may not look it, is so much lighter than this skein of yarn. And in the sleeve, as I was knitting it, I really, really noticed that. And I thought, oh my goodness, am I going to have to throw this entire pullover into a dye pot? But then you would really lose the beauty of the hand-dyed yarns. You know, I may as well just have knit a garment and then dyed it. So I'm thinking I'm going to reskein this up and put it in a light bath of navy. I'm thinking I'll just put a little bit of navy over this. This isn't just a navy dye, but I feel like the final coat of navy that was put on this, it doesn't look true to color at all. There are a total of 6 colors layered on here, but it seems like the final coat of navy just for some reason didn't hit this. So I think I'll do that and just stop now, because you know, I'm pretty much finished with this skein, which stinks because I just sat down now a little while ago and wanted to, I thought, you know what, I have a bit of time. This doesn't normally happen. The girls are really enjoying the movie and I can knit my, you know, to my heart's content on the sleeve as long as they're happy, and until I have to cook dinner, which is in about a half an hour now. But I ended up spending it, ripping it out, winding this up and knitting as much as I could on this previous skein. But I know I will be so much happier if I dye this. It's so light. I wish you could see that, but anyway, I'm really enjoying it. I've shown you this bag before. This is my Knit and Stitch Bits bag. And this is just my sweet little Bull and Vine yarns, and then my pin that says, I suspect the Nargles are behind it, which I sent with the previous Harry Potter club. I'm using a Hey Mama Wolf lavender sachet, and for my needles, I'm storing them in beautiful Little Bobbins DPN cozy. I am about to sit down and package up all of the Harry Potter club yarn, which I am pretty excited about. So this is the end of this installment's yarn. This is the final yarn. I guess I'll show you guys one of the skeins. It's getting quite blown out, but this is the way that it looks. Really, really beautiful. I feel like this colorway could work so well for so many different people. I feel like it could be quite a manly color, but I also feel like it can work really well for anyone, essentially. And that yarn comes with one of my favorite Progress Keepers that I've ever had Chelsea from Sucre Sucre Miniatures do. And this is the one that it is. So the yarn is called Make-A-Wish Harry. And the Progress Keeper is one that says, it's a cookie. It essentially was a cake in the film, but it says Happy Birthday, Harry. And I really, really love that one. So If you guys are new to the video log or podcast, every quarter, so each 3 months, I do a Sucra Miniatures and a Homespun House Harry Potter Yarn and Charm Club. And I basically tell Chelsea exactly how I want the charm to look. She makes it, and I obviously have yarn that I have in mind that I want to dye to go with the charm. And that's how it is. I dye the yarn, I design the charm, and have her make it, and then she sends them to me. So it's really, really fun. There are a couple spots left in this next installment, which will be July, August, September, and that may be the last Homespun House Sucra Miniatures charm for quite a while. So if you want a Harry Potter Yarn and Charm Club from a Homespun House Sucra Miniatures, I would definitely recommend hopping on that club, because I don't know when I'll be doing it again. I'm just going to take a little break from that club. I have some other really fun ones that I have in mind. There's a new clay artist that I really, really want to work with, and we are doing an amazing Gilmore Girls Yarn and Charm Club, so I can't wait to do that. But anyway, this is the third and final installment of that club. I'm so excited about it. I can't wait for July, August, September's club either. There will also always be monthly clubs for Homespun House Sucra Miniatures up until September as well. I don't have anything else planned for the rest of the year. As you can see, I have finished my Marley shawl. It is so much smaller than I thought it would be. I used the Fawn Knits Grand Budapest colorway, and then I used a Homespun House Oatmeal colorway for this side. And I used up every single piece of both of these yarns. I did the bind off in just the oatmeal colorway because I ran out of both, so I had to dig into a new skein just to do this bind off. So yeah, I feel like it's not that big for as much yarn as it used. However, I didn't really give it a good blocking. So once I cast off this shawl, I decided I needed to cast on Kemper from Junk Yarn, her newest shawl. She gifted it to me, which was really, really nice. It is called the Road Trip Shawl by Junk Yarn Designs. And, well, I'll just show you this picture for now. I think it's absolutely stunning. The second it popped up on her Instagram feed, I was like, as soon as this pattern is available, I need it. It's just, the texture on it is so fantastic. So I'm using a So Sweet Violet bag made by Jules. I love this. This was also a gift. She surprised me with the fabric, and I adore it. I'm not sure I really have many project bags in this color, but it's fantastic quality. So I am using Shigu needles, and these are the red lace 40-inch 100 centimeter US 5 and 3.75 millimeter needle. Not that you need to see the case that goes in. And I am using 2 different colorways. One of those is Maker's Haven in the I Must Go colorway, and I adore this colorway. This was also a gift. And it's just so pretty. This is a gift for my mom. She will be coming here in 2.5 weeks. Oh my goodness! I can't wait. I really can't wait. So I'm using this colorway, and this is an 80/20 merino, superwash merino nylon. And then I'm using a Homespun House, and I haven't yet named this colorway. But I think it's stunning. It has so many different beautiful layers, which you can't capture in this camera. And this is our merino cashmere base, which is 70% superwash merino, 20% non-superwash cashmere, and 10% nylon. Those birds are just going crazy. So again, I hope that you love listening to them. And I have my really pretty fairy progress keeper here from Amber of Maker's Haven again. And I have the first section of the shawl finished. And I've done this really pretty color work section, which is a little bit difficult to see in the 2 yarns that I chose. I'm happy with the way that it fades into the next. And now I'm starting the next one. So this is just such a neat texture to this shawl. I've never knit anything with this sort of a texture. When I first read the pattern, it's very, very nicely written. I had a little bit of a, I thought, oh my goodness, is this going to be something that I can memorize? Because the repeats aren't even, they're odd. And so for me, that was a little bit strange. I don't know, it kind of messed with my mind. And it's very, very simple to memorize. I don't need to look at the pattern at all. And especially now, I will be knitting for hours and hours on this next middle section. So this is what I'm working on right here. And then I have this section and then this one. And it would be pretty amazing if I could get this done before my mom comes. Not that I will need to, just simply because it will be July. It will be warm. And I don't think she'll need a shawl. I hope that we get really, really lucky and there are just days that we need to put a shawl over our shoulders or in the mornings. Because, as I've mentioned before, it gets very, very hot without air conditioning. So I really appreciate the days that are below 25 degrees. Even 26 and under is still all right, but I feel like once you get above 26 degrees, it's just kind of unbearable. So I am loving knitting that shawl. I feel like I want to knit it all the time. It is just such a fun knit. I haven't enjoyed this shawl. I wouldn't necessarily say that I enjoyed. I really love the yarn. This is one of my favorite colorways that I've knit with in quite a while. It's honestly quite similar to the I Must Go colorway, except the I Must Go colorway, oh, it's pretty. It doesn't have any of this hot pink in there. But yeah, I just feel like it's a knit that I am constantly wanting to work on. I think that I cast it on maybe 3 days ago, and for me, I've gotten a lot finished on it for 3 days. Being so busy with, you know, taking care of little ones. It's just been something that I've knit on during nap time. And if the girls have been doing a little bit of art, in the mornings when I've been enjoying my coffee, and I'm really, really loving that knit. So anybody who hasn't cast one on yet or who hasn't seen it, I couldn't recommend it more. I'm almost enjoying it as much as if you heard about me talking about the Marled Magic that I knit by Stephen West. That was the most enjoyable thing I have ever knit in my entire knitting life. That was something about the experience of the mystery knit along, but as well as just the constant change of the stitch pattern and colors. Oh my goodness, I could not recommend that pattern more. However, the road trip shawl is a similar sort of change up of texture, change up of color. I don't know how it will be now that I'm to that massive section of that one color of yarn, but I still think it will be enjoyable because the stitches are changing, the texture is changing, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. It would be pretty amazing if the next time that I filmed, I would have it finished. We are walking to breakfast to outside, which is where we have gone.
Really good coffee and food.
Yep, this will be our third time going there, and you can see that there are people outside eating already, and I'm sure that it's Maybe busy inside, we'll see. I'm guessing so, seeing that there's people outside. So, let's go in. We are at Outside, which is a really, really nice cafe that I like. And Mom and Elodie and I, well, I'm drinking a cappuccino. It's been quite a while since my last videos, but I was just sitting out here on the balcony hanging out with Søren Lorentzen. I don't know if you can see him, but we were just sitting out here together. He was sitting on my lap knitting, and I've been drinking some tasty coffee. It's absolutely beautiful outside. It's really quite sunny, and it's the perfect time to give myself some moments to relax, be just outside in the quiet, listening to the birds, which I absolutely love, which is just something kind of like a little joke I have with myself, because I never used to understand the bird thing. I can remember being with my grandma Sue, and she would just hear all the birds and constantly be asking, what kind of bird is that? What kind of owl is that? And I just thought, who cares? Like, what's the big deal? It's a bird, wow. And now when I'm in the studio or I'm outside and I hear birds, I love the way they sound, first of all. But second of all, I love to look at them and just wonder what they are. And I really wish that I knew more about birds now as I'm getting older. Søren, you little stinker. Søren is really funny. He is the most insane biter. And sometimes he'll shock you with his biting, like he just shocked me. And he just does it out of love. Constantly. He will come over to you and just let you pet him and bite you as you pet him. Just gnaw on your finger. And it's just what he does. It's just the way that he is. And it often will frighten you because he has really sharp teeth and it comes out of nowhere. But when I pick up Søren and pet him, I know that's what he's going to do. And, oh, he's such a little sweetie. He's starting to purr. But I've been working on quite a few things since the last podcast. Some of them I've already shared with you, and I'm going to have to put you down, Søren, while I look at these. And one of them is my Ziri pullover. I haven't knit on this for quite a while, but since the last clip, I have knit on it a bit. So the pullover is coming along. I now have one sleeve finished, which I'm really, really happy about. And I just have the second sleeve to go. So the body is completely knit. And like I said, the second sleeve is finished. And I don't know why I haven't knit on this. I think I just haven't wanted to think about this little section here, which is kind of a joke. I mean, it's really not that much knitting. It sounded like I lost a key for tightening my interchangeable needle set. So I am knitting this pullover out of a Homespun house yarn in our Dale base. That's a 100% non-superwash merino. It's absolutely beautiful. It's one of my most favorite merino non-superwash bases for sure, which is why I chose to carry it in the shop and dye on it. And this is our Water Reservoir colorway. I haven't dyed this colorway up for a while. I'm not exactly sure why, but I think I'll have to dye some up for the shop this week because it is such a pretty color, and I absolutely love it for this pullover. I think it will be one that I wear a lot. So the pullover is a pattern by Linnea Ullmann, and I believe that's her name. I could be completely wrong. Hopefully that's what her name is. I haven't spoken about this sweater in quite a while, so it's difficult to remember the designer's name. But I love it. I have changed it into a pullover, and I'm really excited for it to be finished. I was watching the Grocery Girls' newest podcast, which I think they filmed quite a while ago, and Tracy rather, is just on this huge sweater kick, and I can understand it because I wear my shawls a lot. I wear them often, I change them often, but I feel like sweaters, I was going to say they're more special, but I take that back. They're definitely not, because my Stephen Westmarold magic shawl is like my prized shawl. I love that shawl so much, but that's getting completely off subject. You guys have heard me sing poetic about that shawl. What are you doing, Soren? He's trying to get into my bag that I just took my sweater out of. But yeah, I kind of would like to be knitting on a just really, really simple pullover, like the pullover that I knit out of a Homespun Houses, the same DK weight, but in my barley colorway. I just knit a really, really simple raglan cropped sweater, and I wear it quite often. Not now because it's a little bit too warm, but it is a really, really cozy pullover to wear. However, it will pill a bit, the non-superwash merino, just because the merino is such a fine fiber. But after you comb the pills out, I would say maybe 5 times, the pilling kind of dies down a bit. And that's Soren Lorentzen meowing because he wants me to pick him up. So I'm enjoying knitting on this. I feel like now that I'm showing it to you, I think that this will be the pullover, the project that I really need to finish just to get it off of my needles. And be able to wear it come fall, because fall will be here in about 2 months. So mid-September, October, and yeah, this would just be the perfect thing to finish and wear. And what I started to say is that I would really love to have just a simple stockinette, just as Tracy said, something instead of constantly knitting socks, to just have a pullover that you're knitting that's really simple, raglan, stockinette, or just any simple texture, seed stitch, a garter pullover, just something very simple and mindless. Stockinette would obviously be the most mindless, but I'm thinking once this is finished, I will cast on a new, just really simple, probably fingering weight pullover. That could even be the So Faded sweater by Andrea Mowry. I never thought I would cast that on until I saw Kemper from Raybot, her yarns, junk yarn, until I saw her So Faded kits, and they're absolutely beautiful. So I'm hoping to receive one in the mail sometime before September, because that could potentially be the next thing that I cast on. I did recently knit Kemper's Road Trip shawl out of a Homespun House yarn, as well as a Maker's Haven yarn, who is Amber, is the dyer. And I gifted that to my mom when she came, and I never ever filmed about it. I do have quite a few photographs on my Instagram, but my mom will be here again in September with my dad. She was here by herself. I'll talk about that probably a little bit later if I remember. And I gifted it to her already, which I'm so bummed about, because it was a really, really beautiful shawl. It was so much fun to knit. I really, really binged on that knit and could not get enough of it. It used up 2 entire skeins of 100-gram yarn, so it's a really, again, wonderful stash buster. And I loved knitting that. So if you haven't seen Kemper Ray's Roadhouse shawl, I definitely recommend having a look and casting it on, because it is such a fun, beautiful knit. I don't know if you can hear the church bells going, but We live fairly close to a church, and I have absolutely no idea what time it is, but I'm guessing, I can't imagine it's noon, to be honest. But speaking of pullovers, I cast on, this is my Maker's Haven bag as well. This is when she first started, so this says Simple Love on it, which was her original company that she started with, and I adore this bag. This is the back and this is the front, and Amber has these really pretty wooden name tags on there, and I'm knitting a pullover for Elodie Ruby. I haven't really decided yet. I'm really just designing this pattern myself, and it is a raglan pullover. I think that it will be quite form-fitting for Elodie and then be a little bit looser for Ruby. So I'm kind of hoping it's one that they can share. Elodie is 3.5 years older than Ruby, but Ruby is so tall for her age, because Robert is extremely tall. And so yes, Ruby is very, very tall, and I can definitely see that this could kind of be more of a little bit of a tunic for her, and then just roll up the sleeves once or twice, cuff them. So I'm knitting this out of a Homespun Houses, again, another non-superwash yarn. This is Dale, but in the fingering weight yarn, and this is a new colorway that I've come up with called Yesterday's Laundry, and I am obsessed with this colorway. As soon as I dyed it, I thought I need to knit something out of it. I could even see knitting a pullover for myself out of it. I dyed up so many skeins of this yarn. I just went crazy dyeing it just on non-superwash yarn. There still is a bit in the shop if you love it. However, it is a repeatable colorway, so if you can't get it this time, there will be another time, I'm sure. But yeah, this particular colorway on this particular base won't be in stock for a little while. So I've already done the neck cast on. I just did a simple 1x1 rib, and I bound off for the arms. Not bound off, but I've taken the live stitches off the needles, and now I'm just knitting the body and stockinette stitch. I really toyed with doing a garter stitch sweater, because I am really in love with the look of all of these. I feel like a lot of Scandinavian or Swedish, Norwegian designers are doing these really simple cardigans that are just a tonal colorway or even a solid colorway, and they're just complete garter stitch. Now I haven't really seen a lot of those as a pullover style. I've seen most of them as cardigans, which, as I mentioned, I adore. So I didn't know how that would play as a pullover, so I decided to just do a really simple, really enjoyable stockinette pullover, and I am enjoying. I know I talk about this every time I use our Dale base, but it is just so fantastic. And one of the things that I do love about non-superwash yarns is that they don't stretch, they don't grow, they really hold their shape so perfectly, which I feel like is the perfect mix for a pullover for anybody, just for garment knitting in general. Andrea Mowry did an interview with, I believe the podcast is called Fruity Knitting. It's a video podcast, and I watched their podcast with her, and she was explaining as well why she really loves to knit with non-superwash yarns for garments, and I couldn't agree more. So why that's relevant, I don't even know. It just came to mind when I was thinking about. It's a really lovely interview. I've never seen her in video form, so if you haven't seen that that interview and you enjoy watching or enjoy following Andrea Mowry and her knitting patterns and her Instagram feed, she does have a live interview with Fruity Knitting podcast, which, as I said, was really enjoyable. Andrea Mowry, I feel like, is just so relatable, and she seems like a really really lovely person. So anyway, this is out of non-superwash yarn in our Dale base on yesterday's laundry colorway, which I love. I really wanted to add this like pink tones and little red speckles, because I can remember when I first started doing laundry and would just kind of mix everything together, and so many things would turn pink or red because those are the colors that tend to bleed. So it's just a really sweet, pretty colorway that I feel like is so versatile. You can use it for so many different things. So there's that pullover. I'm really, really enjoying it. I have a new progress keeper on here. This is from Simply Serving, and I love it. My favorite kind of ice cream is cookie dough ice cream. What are you doing, Soren? He's cuddling with my pile of yarn. I do have quite a bit of yarn in the shop at the moment. I will be adding loads of Dale fingering non-superwash merino. I have a lot of tonals that are going into the shop on that, as well as, what are you doing, Meatsy Meats? I have a lot of tonals that are going on. The cats are really going to distract me right now because both of them are out on the balcony and they're being extremely cute playing with this toy that they are literally obsessed with. They can play with this every day. If you have a cat, I highly recommend it. Yeah, so there are a lot of tonals going into the shop, as well as speckled yarn on the non-superwash Dale base. But here are some of the other yarns that will be going into the shop this week, along with quite a few others. So all of these colorways will be available on at least 5 different bases per colorway. So here we have Half Blood Prince. This one hasn't gone into the shop for quite a while. I had a special request for it, so I was really happy to be able to dye some of that up. I have If You're a Bird, I'm a Bird. I just grabbed my chunky yarn for that. That's 100% superwash merino. Love that base. I have some Let's Be Friends, or this is Let's Hold Hands, on 50/50 silk mohair. Amazing base. I have some Bang Bang Remix. We have a new colorway called Moth House, which is really cool. Little pop of red hiding in there. I have some of the ever so loved B-sides and rarities. I have to knit something out of that. Mermaid of the Black Lake is back. It's been a while. I have some Swamp House. I accidentally grabbed 2 of these, but just kind of shows you how it's different on the different bases. And I have a lot of singles that will be going into the shop on all of these colorways. And then I have Love Letter on mohair. And as I mentioned, there are quite a few others, but I don't want to take hours upon hours showing shop yarns, so you can definitely go and have a look for that. I've already sent out the Gilmore Girls Club, which was a collaboration with Sucre Sucre Miniatures, for July. And I had such an amazing response for that, which was so lovely, that in October, November, December, I will be having another Gilmore Girls Yarn and Charm Club with a new and local polymer clay artist, which I am really thrilled about, very excited about. Spots for those there will be a pretty good number of those. So I am really, really looking forward to that and sharing this artist with all of you and doing some fun Gilmore Girls yarns. I already have all of them planned. I know exactly what they're all going to be. We have all of the charms curated and going, and I can't wait for that. Also, I have started listing littles, which are a random assortment of mini skeins, to the shop. You can buy those in 5 20-gram packs, 8 20-gram packs, or 10 20-gram packs, and you will just get a complete assortment of minis in those packs. So I'm really excited to do those. Minis are so much fun to dye on, and a lot of people have been asking for them. I used to dye them up quite often, and I stopped for quite a long time. So I'm really, really happy to have a huge collection of those that I've slowly been gathering, and I hope you guys love them. We have had a really, really nice summer so far. I feel like it has been really nice taking the past 2 months off of work and spending time with my family. We've spent a bit of time at the holiday home, and we went to the East Sea. We rented a house there, and we spent quite a bit of time there. And that was so lovely. We went to the beach every day, and the girls were just so in love with the moving sea and the waves and the beach and the water. And it was so nice every evening to eat somewhere fun and not have to cook and have ice cream. That was just really nice and such a treat. So we really, really want to take the time this year to travel and go on some holidays. So we're thinking that we'll maybe go to Crete in Greece, and we'll probably go somewhere in Turkey this year. Sida, we'll probably go to Sida at some point. So also in September, my parents will be coming together, which I'm really, really looking forward to. So it will just be so nice to go on some travels this year together. After seeing how much fun the girls had at the East Sea and just how kind of easy it was. Meetsy Meets is playing with my table, so you guys might have a little bit of shaking. After seeing how nice it was for the girls and how easy it was, how relaxed, it really, really made us realize that we can travel with 2 young children. And so that's kind of the reason for wanting to travel a lot more. We both work from home currently. Robert was a stay-at-home dad up until the girls started going to Kita. And yeah, so they just started going to Kita just for 2 hours a day. So he still, is a stay-at-home dad. Having my mom here was so nice. She was only here for 8 days, and it was just so wonderful. We really just had such a relaxing time. We went and we had coffee and breakfast somewhere every single day. And we spent a lot of time walking, meandering around, took some fun pictures in a photo booth, went to the hair salon. We went and got 1.5-hour massages, and really just kind of treated ourselves and enjoyed spending time together. I feel like we got really, really good time out of the time that we spent. My mom started showing me how to make kefir, and we've been keeping that up and making and drinking that every single day in our smoothies. And she also showed me how to ferment foods, and she started some sauerkraut for us, which I'm really excited to eat and try later. And what else? Just spent a lot of fun time with the girls. We went to a pottery class, a pottery place where they have, you know, all of the finished pottery and you can paint it, and then they fire it in the kiln for you. And we made Robert, well, Elodie did a really special mug for his birthday, which was this past week. And we just had a really, really, really lovely time. I couldn't have asked for more. I couldn't have asked for it to be any different. And the only thing I could have asked for was more time. But like I said, I'm really happy that she'll be here in 2.5 months, like I said, with my dad. They'll be here for 2 weeks this time, so for quite a while. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. Today, we are going to go and see the new Minions movie. Elodie and Ruby love Minions and Despicable Me 1 and 2, so we're hoping that the movie is going to be pretty good. I'm sure it will be. And then we'll have dinner at our favorite falafel halloumi place. I'm a vegetarian. Robert wasn't a vegetarian until maybe a month ago, 2 months ago. And so our whole family for about 2 months has been eating vegetarian, which has been really nice. I haven't felt good at all about being a vegetarian and feeding my children meat along with, you know, Robert. So I was really, really happy when he decided to make that change, because then I knew it would be a lot easier for our family. Robert's family thinks we're crazy for being vegetarian. I think they wonder, what in the world have I done to their son? But it was completely his own decision. I had no say, no influence really even over that happening. It was something that just happened for himself. I feel really good about everything that's going on, about starting up working again. I really missed dyeing yarn. I love dyeing yarn as much as I love knitting. So I kind of felt like a piece of me was missing when I wasn't able to dye yarn, which is why I kind of started that little hashtag of naptime dye sessions on Instagram, because once the girls would lay down for a nap, I would immediately just be like, I need to dye. I need to get my fingers on some undyed yarn and just start to bring together really beautiful color combinations. And I don't think I ever dyed colorways that I had already created. I think they were all new, complete, just inspired colorways. So that was a lot of fun to do and play with color during those nap times. So I hope that I talk to you guys sooner rather than later, because I definitely have thought about all of you a lot, and hated that I haven't made the time to speak with you, because we have time for everything. We have time for anything. It's, you know, what we make time for. So I want to make more time for this, and I hope you guys all have a really good rest of your week. I am still distracted by Sovanovensen and Weetsy Meats. They are just walking around and playing with their toy. And I'll see you all soon. Bye.